Tell me this thing, what is the secret to have six-pack abs?
What is more beautiful about life than finding what you truly love doing and you pursue that with 100% passion, energy, effort?
What three things you would recommend not to consume at all?
Being in control of your mind and saying you're doing the things that you know you should do, but you don't necessarily want to do at the moment, right?
Why deadlift is so important?
Creatine is the number one most clinically tested performance enhancement supplement that is on the market, hands down. Right?
What are the biggest mistakes people they do when they started working out?
These are the 5 main components of what it means to gain weight, to build muscle, to lose weight, right? To maintain your weight. Steroids, I do not recommend anyone.
What is your take on like hereditary?
They just think, well, I was born this way. There's nothing I can do. Not true, right? Work hard and you will get out of this. Yeah.
So Justin, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure you're here. So I know you through the gym, I wanted to join, and when I met you, you were telling me good information about fitness, and I got very curious that you spoke about the creatine. I do have all the questions. Okay, I'm gonna reveal those questions. I'm gonna gain your knowledge and share with the world.
Yeah.
Another thing that you mentioned that you came from Germany a few years back. Okay.
Exactly.
So yeah, I wanted to know like everything, how like when you moved, why you moved, and how long you have been into the fitness. So can you just give some little background about
Of course, yeah. I have been in the USA for roughly 6 years and 9 months now, right? It was 2017 as far as I recall. And man, time flies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even before that, I have already been into fitness, right?
Okay.
Fitness is not necessarily what got me moving from Germany to California. However, fitness has always been a part of me.
Nice, I can see that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been a long time, yeah.
So I want to break this down. Like,
Of course.
so let's say how long you have been continuously going to the gym in order to have the body that you have.
Exactly.
Right now? Yeah.
So continuous is one term to use for that, right? I'll tell you this. It was not a linear way, right, or road. It was a bumpy road, meaning I've encountered many injuries, right? I had times when I had to lay off of working out due to injuries, right? Just like with anything in life, right? Any human endeavor, any aspiration that you are striving for usually comes with a bumpy road, with obstacles, right?
Yeah.
Unexpected obstacles, of course. But the short answer is it took me probably 8 years, right? Within those 8 years, I have probably wasted, and this is a rough number, right? For the audience, this is not accurate, right? I've probably wasted 2 years, right? Due to inexperience at the beginning. I did incorrect executions, right? And I have inflicted injuries that restricted me from working out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always heard that it's all about 20% of the exercise and 80% of the diet. How much this is true?
I would reduce and increase. I would say 60 to 40%. 60% nutrition, 40% working out, right? Both go hand in hand, right? It's like saying a diet consisting of only fruit wouldn't work, right? You need both. So, I mean, in order to drive a car, you need a gasoline, right? So you definitely need both, right? The reason why I say nutrition is more important is directly reflected on people's goals, right? So the vast majority of people's goals, and I'm talking from my own personal experience as a personal trainer, is that people want to lose weight, right? And the only true way to lose weight is through proper nutrition, right? This is the only way. And you can spend as many hours as you want and as many days as you want at the gym. If you then go home and you don't eat right, you will unfortunately, right, not achieve the physique that you're probably looking for if your goal is to lose body fat.
How much water and the taking the rest while working out plays important role in building your muscles?
So rest time, if we're talking about rest in terms of sleep for overall health plays a very vital role, right? But if we're talking about rest time in terms of post-workout rest, right? Let's say you have worked out and then you rest the particular muscle group that you have worked out on. I would say at least 48 hours. We call it isolation, meaning you're isolating a muscle group, right? They're different, we call them split workouts. You're splitting your muscle groups into different days. So you're dedicating, let's say, a whole day into your chest and your triceps. So it's a chest and triceps day. It's a very popular combination of muscle group to work on, right? So you should not work out chest and triceps for 48 hours at least. Also dependent on your soreness, right? This is a very important factor. If after 48 hours you are still very sore, right, in your chest and in your triceps, you should absolutely not work out this area. Reason why is because soreness means you are still within the recovery phase, right? Because what happens when you work out is that you tear muscle fiber apart, right? This is scientifically what happens. And then when you take the rest time, they grow back together. And this is why it's very important never to work out a muscle group that's sore.
What about water?
Water intake, yes, especially during weight loss, right? There are two reasons, right? Drinking water, it helps with detoxification, right? And water also gives you the sense of being full much quicker, right? So when your goal is to lose weight, you ultimately want to eat within a calorie deficit, meaning you're eating less calories than your body needs to maintain its weight, right? So if you then drink an abundance amount of water, I say in abundance because most people do not drink more than half a gallon, right? The average person, right? An abundance of water would be 1 to 1.5 gallons of water. This is like the amount of water you should drink, right? You should not overconsume, right? Could be deadly, in fact. This can truly help you lose weight far quicker. Yes, number one, it makes you feel fuller. Number two, it definitely provides you with a lot of hydration and energy, right? Yeah, because during a calorie deficit, you tend to miss out on certain minerals and vitamins as well, right? Which oftentimes leads to fatigue, right? So water, in fact, also counteracts that.
I also want to know one thing related to intake of sugar and salt. I heard many theories, about it. Can you tell how it affects bodybuilding?
Yeah, so if we're just isolating it within the case of bodybuilding, right, and not overall health, right, I'll tell you about the bodybuilding aspect, right? So in terms of sugar and salt, not too important because on the bigger picture, what truly matters is calories in and calories out, right? That means how many calories are you consuming,
Okay.
right? So let's say your calorie maintenance in order to maintain your weight is 2,500, right? And here I would pay attention because it could get a little bit complicated, right? So we're talking in terms of calories, numbers, right? So 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrate, right?
Oh, okay.
A sugar is a carbohydrate, glycogen, glucose, right? So 1 gram of sugar equals 4 calories, right? So if you want to lose weight, let's say, again, your calorie maintenance is 2,500, right? And you should consume 2,100 because you want to eat less than your calorie maintenance effectively, right? So we drop it by like 400 calories, right? And 1 gram of sugar is 4 calories, right? So now you determine the amount of sugar within your proteins, fats, and carbs that you can afford eating that day or within a week that still supports your weight loss goal. I know it sounds a little bit complicated, right?
Yeah.
So once again, 1 gram of sugar is 4 calories. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories too. But 1 gram of fats, maybe olive oil, avocado, right, almonds, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, right?
Wow.
That's 2.25 more than carbs and proteins, right? And sugar is however, it would be very hard to maintain a high sugar diet while trying to lose weight. And all things considered, sugar, obviously, needless to explain, is very unhealthy too, for many other reasons.
So when we are talking about the sugar, you meant any kind of sugar, like sugar coming from the rice, sugar coming from for example, soda, any kind of energy drink, or raw sugar, like we put it in the coffee or.
Any type of sugar. When it comes to weight loss and weight gain, it only comes down to calories in, calories out. It doesn't really matter which type of quality of sugar, right? It may be from blueberries, strawberries, may be from a donut, right? But you obviously, every time when you go on a diet, right, or every time when you count your macronutrients, right, you want to make sure that you eat, we call it high volume foods, right, instead of, we call them, sorry, I lost the term, but there is a term for it. Basically, foods that have no nutritional value, right, such as chips, right, or sour candy. They have no nutritional value.
Right.
They only provide you with bad things, right?
Yeah.
Whereas spinach, right, and lettuce or bell pepper, right, you can eat a big plate of this, technically speaking, right? You wouldn't just eat spinach, right?
Right.
But technically speaking, you could eat a ginormous plate of bell pepper and spinach, right?
Right.
And barely eat any calories, right? This is why we call it high volume, right? This is one of the tricks, this is one of the ways to trick your body into feeling full, right? Which helps you when you want to lose weight. Even though you feel full, you are still losing weight.
Right.
Correct.
What about how salt plays the role?
Salt, more or less, right? Salt stores water, right?
Okay.
In every single cell of your body, right? This is
Right.
what salt does. I am a fan of high salt diets. The reason why is because there is a doctor. He's a very renowned doctor. His name is Dr. James Webb Dinnick. He read a book that is titled The Salt Fix, and within that book he is talking about the correlation between your health and the consumption of salt. So high quality salt such as Celtic sea salt is in fact very important for hydration and storing water in the appropriate places, right? Just think about it this way. You've probably had a day when you drank an insane amount of water or a lot of water, right?
Right.
As far as you remember, did you go to the restroom a lot?
Right.
I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So all we're doing with that water that we drank, we actually just, got rid of it, right?
Right.
So if every time you drink a glass of water, you take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, you would actually get rid of it much less, right? Does that make sense? Because salt would help you store the water in the appropriate places,
Oh.
right?
Okay.
Salt, in fact, is important, right? Matter of fact, I use a pinch of Celtic sea salt every time prior to my workout because it helps me stay hydrated and it boosts your energy.
Nice information, man. Yeah, good. I'm so happy I'm getting so much educated, and everyone is gonna get educated because what happens, we are not getting the real information. Like so many, whenever I open TikTok or Instagram, I get confused what to do, what not to do. Another thing that is always a talk about intake of protein. Like I heard 1 gram of one should take 1 gram of protein equivalent to your like weight. That means if you are 60 kg, you should take 60 grams of protein. Is it like 60 gram of, let's say someone is 120 lbs, so is it 120 grams of protein equivalent to lbs or equivalent to kg?
So that's a good question, right? There is a conversion rate for that, right? So 60 kilograms, right, is obviously it doesn't equate to pounds, right?
Right.
So 16 kilograms is roughly 130 to 135 pounds, right? So the formula for kilograms would actually be, there's one thing that you said that's true. You should eat roughly 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight, not every kilogram of body weight,
So
right?
if someone is weighing 150 lbs, he should have 150 gram of protein.
Roughly, yes.
Okay.
Most ideally, 1.25 grams of protein times your weight.
So is it depends on the goal? Because if let's say someone wants to get bulky, then it is recommended for them.
It's not really goal dependent. I would say universally, any human being should always consider an adequate amount of protein. Being very careful with my terms, right? Since we're talking in front of audience, right?
Yeah, it's-
I would not say high amount of protein because too much protein can also be a little harmful, not too bad, right? But ultimately, it would also be pointless because all you would do with the rest of protein that was overconsumed, you would simply just excrete it, right?
Okay.
So once again, if let's say you weigh 60 kilograms, right, you should eat 2 to 2.25 grams of protein per kilogram,
Per
right?
kilogram.
However, if it is pounds, right, for instance, I weigh roughly around 165 right now. I always eat a baseline of like 205 grams of protein. That's a little bit higher than 1 gram of protein per pound. Reason why is because not only do I want to maintain my muscle mass, I also want to build it, right? And the reason why protein is important for muscle building is very simple. It's simply just the most important macronutrient, right? For muscle building, muscle preservation. What protein does is it helps your body build new tissue, right? And this process is called muscle protein synthesis, right? And this is why protein is the most important macronutrient that you need for muscle building, right? If we're talking about the nutritional aspect.
So we need protein for muscle building.
Correct.
Do we need protein if someone wants to reduce the weight as well?
Of course, yeah. Protein not only is great for muscle building, right? By the way, it also helps with bone density, right? So it is very important for everyone, for every individual to eat protein, whether you're working out or not, right? Because bone density, as you get older, plays a very vital role for your fragility or for stabilization of your body, right? So when you want to lose weight and you consume protein, it literally boosts your metabolism, and it is proven, right? Number one. Number two, high protein diet is directly correlated to losing body fat because it also makes you feel fuller much quicker, right? That's also something why people eat a lot of protein, right? It definitely, and I always say it is not the hardest thing to eat a lot of protein. It is always somewhat misconceptualized, right? Protein is in many things that people don't even know of, right? And it adds up much quicker than you can count. Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to know. The formula that you just mentioned regarding taking the grams of protein per lbs of your weight. This formula is different for male and females, or is it same?
Good question. No, for females, definitely different, right? For females, generally speaking, they say 0.8 grams of protein times their body weight, and this should be the max amount of protein.
You mentioned in the beginning that you should count your calories, right? While intaking your food. How do you calculate that? Do you use any app, or you just
Correct, yeah.
Google it, or what do you do exactly?
So, you know what? When I was younger, I was never really familiar with what it actually means to count your calories, right? I believe the reason also why I really liked it was because we just didn't have the technological tools for that, right? These days, I use an app called MyFitnessPal. I'm very thankful for modern technology. This is one of the reasons, right? And it's very intriguing because you can literally scan any product nationwide, right? Or probably globally. Even if I were to be in Germany, any product you scan and it will tell you exactly the macros of that product, right? And this truly helped me, or it facilitated calorie tracking for me, right? I do that very meticulously, right? I count every single gram, right? And this app is definitely a game changer when it comes to that. Yeah.
You mentioned something about the intake of creatine as well when we met in the gym. So one thing I remember you mentioned. So I'm gonna go back little, okay?
Sure.
Long time back in India, okay. If someone is taking the creatine, when I was a kid, I heard that it is not good for your health, okay. Then I know some friends, they take creatine, and I was like, okay, looks like it is not that bad for the health. And then I thought one should people who are going to the gym, they should take the creatine. But I think you mentioned the other day that everyone should take the creatine. Doesn't matter if they're male, female, they're going to gym or not. How important is that to take the creatine?
You know what? This is one of the biggest questions on the internet I see these days, and please, audience, listen to my advice. This is 100% true what I'm about to say, right? And there are always myths on the internet regarding creatine, right? Creatine is the number one most clinically tested performance enhancement supplement that is on the market, hands down, right? It is proven to boost not only muscular endurance, muscular strength, it helps with cognitive function, cognitive benefits, brain health, in other words, right? And it also supports bone density, right? So for your bone health, for muscular buildings, preservation, endurance, and cognitive function, creatine is hands down a no-brainer supplement, right? It is not unhealthy in any way, right? Unless you would totally overconsume creatine. You could do that, yes, and then it could hurt your liver. So there is some truth to the myth, right? But overall, you can say creatine is super, super safe, right? It's super, super cheap to acquire too, right? And it is one of the most beneficial supplements everybody should take, right? Everybody. There is no exception. Unless you are very young, right? If you're in your teenage years, there is probably Not much use of it just yet, right? As your body still furthermore develops, right? But overall speaking, of course, creatine is super safe. Creatine is naturally found in fish, in chicken, in steak, especially in beef meat, right? So they're natural sources, right? However, you would have to consume a large amount of those meats in order to get the appropriate amount of creatine. And just for the audience, 5 grams of creatine is the perfect baseline for everyone, right? Yeah.
People who are vegetarian, how can they consume the creatine or the protein? And how their bodybuilding or the weight loss journey, does it affect just because they are vegetarian?
No. So I'll start off by saying I know a German professional bodybuilding athlete. His name is Paul Unterleitner. He is or Paul Unterleitner, with how we would say in German, right?
Okay.
He is very renowned on Instagram, right, with over 1 million followers.
Okay.
He is a vegetarian competitive bodybuilding athlete, right?
Nice.
And he has also proven the fact to me that indeed it is possible as a vegetarian to achieve these goals almost effortlessly. However, it is probably a little bit more expensive, right? Because vegetarian products, especially protein-packed products, are a little bit more expensive, right? We're talking about tofu,
Okay.
right? We're talking about chickpeas, right? Such sources, soy sources, right? That could hurt your pocket, right? If financial needs are provided, then it is not a problem at all, right? It could make it more difficult in the sense that you would have to spend more money. But ultimately, it always comes down to proteins, fats, and carbs. The quality of the food, yes, plays a role, right? Protein, fats, carbs, quality, and calories in, calories out, right? These are the 5 main components of what it means to gain weight, to build muscle, to lose weight, right? To maintain your weight. And this is the very important thing, right? Whether you're vegetarian, vegan, right? You're on a carnivore diet, keto diet, right? It really does not matter. You can definitely achieve your goal. Don't ever be discouraged by your restrictions, right? Because there is always a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. What's the exact age you would recommend to start a gym?
So to answer the question, to my knowledge, right, I would say you can definitely start at a very young age, considering you're doing everything right, right? So if we're talking in a hypothetical case where you're let's say an 8-year-old person, right, going to a health club, a gym, right, and you're starting to work out. Ideally, in that hypothetical case, you're doing everything right. It's probably the best place you can be, right? However, your body obviously is still developing. You're still growing, right, in size, right, in height. But you're setting a nice foundation for your body to develop dominant areas.
What 3 things you would recommend not to consume at all?
One thing is an absolute no-brainer. As we all know, alcohol is bad, right? Do not consume alcohol. Alcohol slows down your metabolism, and alcohol also slows down protein synthesis. As discussed earlier, muscle protein synthesis is the process of building new muscle tissue, right? So that's very important. Another thing that obviously I would not recommend everyone is smoking, right? May it be marijuana or any other form of smoking, vaping, right? Tobacco, right? It also clogs your arteries, right? So your energy production will be far less and your endurance too, right? This is not going to come in handy, right? Besides that, I would not really say there's anything I would not consume, right? Because you can still consume sugar, right? It can still somewhat help you, right? Sugar is also converted into glycogen. Glycogen is our energy fuel, right? Converted into ATP. This is your body's natural energy currency, right? So I would say there are, as far as I know right now, only 2 things that you should definitely not consume, which is 1000% alcohol probably being the worst, and smoking.
How important is strength training compared to the cardio for overall health?
So cardiovascular training or cardio training is definitely always something that is great for you. But if we're in the sense of bodybuilding, right, it is solely a tool of burning calories, right? Strength training will always prevail over cardio. Every health expert that is knowledgeable will tell you exactly the same, right? Because what strength training does is, number one, it builds muscle, it preserves muscle, it also focuses on your bone density. That is very, very important that many people oversee, right? And it has many mental benefits as well, right? And it burns calories, right? It is also a cardiovascular activity, right? So we have the cardio already in our strength training, plus far more benefits, right? And when you build muscle, another great thing about muscle tissue is that muscle tissue is the primary tissue that that burns the most calories. Meaning, in other words, or in easy words, the bigger the muscle, the better you burn body fat, and that is a real thing. That is not a myth, right? So and many people question that, but I know it is true, right? This is why you see many of iconic bodybuilders such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He could eat an insane amount of calories that we could probably not consume in one day, right? And still look somewhat lean, right? Because his muscles are so big, they burn so much calories at rest, right? At resting periods, meaning when you're just laying in bed, when you're walking, when you're sitting on the desk, right? So resistance training for overall health is far more important than cardiovascular workouts or training activities such as running, going on an elliptical, playing tennis, swimming, right? These are simply just not as important as resistance training. And every professional athlete, may it be in swimming, soccer, football, right? I just named a few, but I'm referring to every single one. Always goes to strength training or resistance training, right? Because they all know the benefit of it.
Recently, I came across many people who are very young, and they are dying, especially the bodybuilders. They are dying at very early age because of the heart attack. Is it because of the steroids they take? What exactly happened?
Steroids, I do not recommend anyone, and that goes for the audience, right, to ever indulge in, right? Because every time when somebody takes an steroid or an anabol, they usually enjoy it. They take it with optimism, right? Somewhat knowing the side effects, right? I believe that young people aren't really in a position to make a decision on steroids, right? It's kind of like it's a shot in the dark, right? You do not know what side effect will hit you. There might not even be a single side effect if you get really, really lucky. But in the very, very most cases, there is at least one side effect. May it be harmless or even stronger, right? Or even worse, right? It really just also depends on the steroid, right? And is it correlated to other health conditions that they already had, right? And you cannot really go to your professional, knowledgeable physician and say, hey, I want to take steroids, give me advice based on my health panel, right? Would that interfere with anything of my health conditions, right? Would I have an allergic reaction to it? You cannot consult your doctor for that, right? That would be illegal, right? Because they cannot advise you to take steroids, right? Nobody should, right? So yes, matter of fact, there used to be an athlete. He did not die of a heart attack. He had, man, I forgot it. What it is called? Something with his brain, right? His name was Joe Statics. He was a German bodybuilder, very professional. He had over 5 million followers on Instagram.
And how he died?
He had something with his brain. One day he had really, really bad headaches, and all of a sudden he just...
How old he was?
He was 32, I believe.
32.
Yes,
Wow,
he
very
was.
young.
He had a great physique, but he also publicly
And that happened
consumed.
because of the creatine as well? Not creatine, I'm sorry.
The steroids.
Yeah.
We assume, right? However, let's take it to an extreme. There was an athlete called Rich Piano. That was his name, right? An American bodybuilder. He was the size. He was probably 4 times the size of me. Most people wouldn't even want to look like that. I respect him because he was so passionate about the sport that he knowingly took steroids with full awareness that it might take his life, right? So he took many steroids, including things named like Anavar, Deca, D-bol, synthetic testosterone as well, right? And which then costed his life. He died of heart failure, right? So these steroids and anabolics and growth hormones, they definitely cause heart attacks. This is one of the side effects, right? It really just depends on which one. And then growth hormones, what they do is there are certain steroids, they can grow your organs, right? So when you take a steroid, it grows your organs. It will also grow your heart, because your heart is an organ.
Right.
You don't want to manipulate your heart, right? This is the engine of your body. Super scary. And this is another reason why many people die of heart issues, right? Because it's self-inflicted ultimately, right? But the reason why I say I respect Rich Piano, although he indulged in these substances, is because he had such a love and passion for that sport, right? That this is what he made his whole life about, right? And I always say each to their own, right? But I mean, what is more beautiful about life than finding what you truly love doing and you pursue that with 100% passion, energy, effort, right? That's how I love thinking about it. Yeah. But yeah, steroids is really bad. Don't do it.
Awesome, great information.
Yeah.
Scary though.
Creatine is the way to go, right?
Yeah.
Creatine is the only, it is the most clinically tested, most harmless performance enhancement supplement that every professional athlete will take. Yeah.
But you should not also exceed the dose of creatine as well,
Exactly.
right?
I would not go over 5 grams. 5 grams is more than enough.
5 grams per day.
And 5 grams is not going to hurt you. Exactly.
Doesn't matter if you're male, female. But is there any age restriction for that as well? Of course, right?
I cannot really say, to be very honest. I have not researched creatine myself like that. I started taking creatine at the age of 15, right? That was the first time. I've obviously laid off on it because when I was so young, I didn't take it continuously. I wasn't really serious about fitness. Didn't really know what creatine is really good for, right? But just think in terms of creatine as something that stores water molecules in your muscle fiber, right? And it literally increases your ATP production, right? ATP is what we are using when we are working out, right?
Okay.
It's our body's natural energy currency, right? So it helps us maintain a good amount of ATP while we are working out.
So you take creatine before going to the gym? Do you get any kind of extra power when you take the creatine?
So,
or?
not directly, right? So, I don't want people to have false expectations when they take supplements, right? Because I know what it's like, especially when I was younger, I was expecting superhuman powers. Right?
Yeah,
I was taking
that's what I
creatine.
heard as well.
Exactly. So, it works differently, right?
Okay.
Saying, we know that the Earth rotates, but we don't really see it, right? Unless we literally monitor it with like a camera, right? Or we don't really see the sun moving, but the sun moves gradually, right? Same with creatine. Our strength increases, but you barely notice it at first, right? But if you compare it from the day 1 you consume creatine to day 90, right? You would see on the chart a drastic increase in your strength and endurance, right? When you take creatine, it doesn't play a vital role, right? Most ideally as a post-workout shake, meaning after your workout, and you do that every day like that. I don't do that. I'm pretty sometimes forgetful with my supplements, so what I like doing is I like doing it first thing in the morning, right? So I take my creatine and many other supplements first thing in the morning.
Tell me your schedule, like, a daily schedule, or do you have a cheat day? Tell me what exactly you do.
I'll give you somewhat of a blueprint, what I do, right? My morning always consists of first thing when I wake up, I grab a glass of water, right? I put creatine monohydrate in there, 5 grams. I put some L-carnitine, which is one of the only amino acids that helps you converting fat into energy, right? I put L-carnitine, creatine in this glass of water. I take probiotics and digestive enzymes that support my gut health, right? And then I take DHEA, which is it's a hormonal supplement over the counter, right? Super safe, super healthy. And I drink that. Shortly after, I either do cardio or some form of resistance training, such as abdominal work, right? And shortly after, I jump into cold water, meaning I either jump into the pool or I take an ice cold shower. Reason why I do this is because cold showers are proven to be very healthy for you, right? Backed up by many studies and health experts. It's also very thermogenic, meaning it also helps you lose body fat, right? Or stay lean, right? It's also helpful for mental clarity, right? It reduces stress, right? So I do that every day. It's a non-negotiable. I know many people say, "Oh, I don't know how you can do that. This water is so cold. I don't like the cold," right? Get used to it.
Even in winter you take cold shower?
1000%, yeah. Matter of fact, I take the water so cold that if I let it drop on my head, it gives me brain freeze. Yeah, so I take it pretty much to the extreme. I like it this way, right? It's in habit, right? And so I'm just trying to do things that I don't really necessarily enjoy doing, right? I don't wake up, say, I get to do resistance training, right? I get to take a cold shower, right? It's not so much about what you like doing. It's being in control of your mind and saying you're doing the things that you know you should do, but you don't necessarily want to do at the moment, right? They also create studies on, there is something called your prefrontal cortex. It's the front part of your brain, right? And they found out in these studies, this is very interesting. Andrew Huberman held a podcast about this, that people that did activities that they did not want to do, right? They also call it environmental homeostasis, doing things that you don't want to do, and people doing these things, they saw growth in their prefrontal cortex, their front part of their brain.
They saw what?
They saw growth in their prefrontal cortex, right, which is their front part of their brain. They also and they call the prefrontal cortex the seat of willpower, meaning you being in control of your mind, you being the captain of your boat. So doing these things that you don't want to do are actually healthy for you, right? May it be taking a cold shower, may it be going on the run when you don't feel like doing it, right? Unless you say, please don't, right? May it be a sauna, right? Environmental stress, right? These things truly help us. Or may it literally be reading a book, right? Whatever it may be, right? Things you actually don't want to do that aren't bad for you, right? Yeah, can literally help you grow your front brain, exactly. So, and then when I'm all done with this, right, I get to my actual workout roughly around, it really just depends on the day, right? But let's leave time out of the equation. I do at least, I work out at least 6 times a week, right? 5-6 times a week. And I do cardio every morning, 6-7 times a week, right? And then I usually train the other muscle group.
What do you generally take in the breakfast?
My breakfast, I usually leave out carbs, right?
Okay.
I don't like eating carbs in the morning, right? So I keep it high fat, high protein, meaning I eat, I'm very meticulous. I eat 150 grams of egg whites with one pasture-raised egg, which is the healthiest egg you can eat, right? Believe me, this is very true, right? Many people are very controversial about if cage-free eggs are the healthiest eggs. No, or organic eggs, it's pasture-raised. Organic pasture-raised eggs are your best choices, right? They're the most nutrient-dense eggs you can eat, exactly.
Okay.
Although the most expensive ones, right?
Right, yeah.
But we're not buying a Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I eat 150 grams of egg whites, one egg. I eat 5 ounces of cooked sirloin steak in the morning. And I add a handful of spinach, right? 1 serving of spinach. I add 1 tomato to it and half an onion. And I eat that every morning. Here and there I put a little bit of sugar, no sugar added ketchup on it. And this is my breakfast. In other words, I keep my breakfast always high protein, high fat, almost no carbs, and I just get the carbs from the onions and the tomatoes, right? And then usually my second meal is when I eat sourdough bread, which is also great for gut health, right? Sourdough bread with avocado and steak once again. Exactly. These are like my 2 main protein meals that I get out of the way before 5 p.m.
Okay.
By that time, I have eaten 2 meals. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And what about the dinner?
At dinner, it really just depends, right? How I feel. I'm very creative with my meals, right? But I also like to always stick to the same meals. I pretty much never get tired of any of my meals, right? I still want to enjoy my meals, although I am in a calorie deficit if I am, right? So I eat homemade burgers, right? I either use turkey patties or I use steak once again, right? And so just two homemade burgers that add up to roughly 690 to 700 calories. Once again, tracked with my fitness pal, right? And then usually my last meal is Greek yogurt with berries, a little bit of honey, and protein powder, right? This is when I actually use some whey protein. And whey protein is simply just a supplement, right? That you use to supplement your protein, right? Hence the term, right?
Okay.
So it is not a necessary product that you need for muscle building, given that you're already eating enough protein, right? We're reflecting on the formula, right?
Okay.
It's all a numbers game, right? So if you are already eating 200 grams of protein, and 200 grams of protein is all that you need to eat, no. But if you're only eating 165 grams of protein, it could be very convenient to have protein powder around, right? Because it will add to your protein.
So the protein powder is the fastest way to get the protein if you are not eating that amount of meat or eggs or any other source of protein. Right?
Yes, so whey protein is what goes into your system the fastest, right? I personally don't worry about how fast it goes into my system because it eventually will, right? There are not really downsides for protein being consumed a little bit slower, right? There is, for instance, there is whey protein and there is, we call it in Germany, I only know how to pronounce it in German, casein protein.
Casein protein?
Yeah, Casein, right?
What is that?
This is protein that needs longer to be digested or to be absorbed, not digested, right? And typically what many athletes do, they consume this type of protein before they go to bed, right? So they have protein all throughout the night, getting into the system.
Is it plant-based protein or the animal-based protein?
I think they have both versions, right? Yeah. They have both versions, yes. You can also buy plant-based whey protein, right? It doesn't have to come from animal.
So when you buy protein, do you see any specific ingredient in that protein powder?
Yes, it always just depends on the brand, right? For instance, the brand that I am using is called Levels, right? I like this product because it uses monk fruit as a sweetener, which is a natural sweetener, and the protein comes from a grass-fed source, right?
Okay.
And grass-fed is usually what you want to look for when you go for animal product.
What are the some common fitness myths that you encounter and how do you debunk them for your clients?
I would say one of the biggest myth is that people believe the higher the weight, the heavier the weight, the bigger the muscle grows, right?
Okay.
Absolutely not true, right? I know that for a fact, right? I am living proof, right? I know many athletes, they look much bigger than me, but they come close to the weight that I am lifting, right? It doesn't play a vital role, right? This is why we have people that are into strength building, right? Or we call it powerlifting, right? That are not as muscular as bodybuilders, right? Although they are far stronger, right? They are also this type of correlation already is proof enough, right? This is probably the biggest myth that people believe in, right? What is far more important for muscle building is that proper execution, full range of motion, and three fundamentals. We call them concentric, eccentric, and isometric, right? I'll keep it very easy to understand. Concentric is contracting the muscle. I'm referring to my chest, right? Or my bicep. Contracting the muscle, concentric. Eccentric is the negative movement coming down, right? And then isometric is time under tension, holding the contraction, right? These are the three fundamentals. If you execute all three fundamentals correctly with a moderate amount of weight, you're on the best way to build muscle, right? So what I'm trying to say is it doesn't mean you can just grab the 5-pound dumbbells that are very, very light to you, right? Don't grab very lightweight, thinking that as long as you stick to the three fundamentals, you will build muscle. You should still grab weight that is moderately heavy, right? But that suits for you, right? There is another formula or another sort of baseline that people can go by, right? Or rule of thumb is that within 3 to 6 reps, you could say, repetitions, right, of some type of exercise, right? This is considered strength building. Then from 7 to 12, it is considered muscle building, right? Or most people say 8 to 12, right? It's considered muscle building, right, of repetitions. And then anywhere past that range, all the way up to 20 or even more, is muscular endurance, right? So, but within each of those categories, you're still working all the other areas, but you're putting more so on focus onto one area, right? I know this sounds a little bit complicated, right? So, I mean, people can always rewind and rewatch this, right? So ideally for muscle building, right, I like to stick to 8 to 12 repetitions, right? It is not a must, right? There are still certain exercises I do for heavy reps, meaning I do less reps but heavy weight, right? Because I also want to try building up my strength, right? Because there is a tiny correlation. I always say tiny, and I'm very careful with my term, right? Between being stronger and being able to build more muscle, right? Because eventually you are going to have to increase your weight in order to get your muscle used to something new, right?
Do you have any cheat days?
I do, yes. To be very transparent, when I am trying to lose body fat, right? Because I go through stages where I bulk up in order to gain strength and grow more muscle stimulus, right? And then when I cut, I try to reveal what I have been building up, right? It's almost like sculpting your own body, right? The art of bodybuilding, right? I definitely have cheat meals because they also keep me sane, right? I want to enjoy life, right? So every Sunday I do, and to be very honest with you and the audience, my cheat days are absolutely out of control, right? I eat almost whatever I want to, right? Maybe a large pizza and ice cream, and later at night a donut and peanut M&Ms, right? But I get right back on track after, right? It is something that requires someone to be an experienced athlete, because most people that indulge in cheat days, they would turn that cheat day into 2 cheat days or 3 cheat days, right? And so forth. I have the mental control to say, okay, I have this one cheat day, and the next day I will hop straight back on track, right? Most ideally, you shouldn't have a cheat day. If you want to lose weight, you should do something called carb cycling, or we also call it refeed days, right? Meaning they are going to be either 1 or 2 days out of the week where you eat almost double the amount or double the amount of carbohydrates, but you still keep your fats and proteins exactly where they're supposed to be. That will help you to keep up the energy and to not get your metabolism used to a new calorie maintenance. Yeah.
One more thing I heard a lot about is intermittent fasting, right? You eat after several intervals, like stay hungry for, like, don't eat anything for 16 hours or something like that.
Exactly.
Does it really help?
Yes and no, right? Depending on your goal. I do intermittent fasting pretty much every day. Not for 16 hours, I do it for 14 hours, right? I don't take it to that extreme, right? It does help your metabolism, for sure, right? But it is also something you have to either get yourself used to, or you're truly made for that, right? It's not really suitable for everyone. It's not necessary in order to lose weight, right? The reason also why intermittent fasting, or being used to intermittent fasting, is a great tool is because once you do this, you only have a certain time window in which you can eat all your meals, right? So it is easier to stick to your diet when you do intermittent fasting, when you're used to it, because your window of eating all your meals or eating all your calories, right, becomes smaller, right? Making it easier for you to stay consistent. Yeah. So you can see it as a tool. Correct.
And what is the keto diet exactly?
Keto diet basically is a diet that involves no carbs, right? Meaning high fat, high protein, right? Carnivore comes pretty close to it, but you still have carb sources. So when it comes to diets, diet plans such as carnivore, keto, vegan, you name it, right? The reason why all these diets work or could work for you is because every single one of these diets, and this is going to be very valuable for everyone to know, is all they do is they create a calorie deficit, right?
Okay.
If on any of those diets you overconsume the calories, they will not work, right? So now the question is, it's not What should my diet look like? It's more so, which diet plan can I stick to the best? Which diet plan is the easiest for me to maintain in the long run, right? Because when we are losing weight, it is not just something transient, right? We are not just doing it for the time being. This is a lifestyle approach. We want to be able to maintain it long term, right? Don't want to gain it back. So you have to ask yourself, which diet can I actually stick to? Is it keto? Is it carnivore? Is it a macronutrient based diet that I am doing, right? This is like the most conventional way, right? That takes the most work, but it is probably the easiest to stick to, right? Because it involves proteins, fats, and carbs, right? Not just fats and protein.
And whenever you work with your clients, so you go with their like all the history, what kind of, if they have any kind of medical conditions, and based on then you recommend them a diet, right?
Exactly, yes. So I always want to try to find out if I am the right fit for my clients,
Oh, you
right?
check that as well?
Exactly, yes. So because if they have conditions that I am not familiar with, then I probably wouldn't be the right fit, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
For the most part, clients don't really have that, right? Or their conditions that I also know about, and I also know how to handle that, right? And when it comes to the personal training aspect. And for the most part, every human being should be active, right? So there is almost no condition that could restrict you from resistance training, right? That's another good thing about this. Exactly.
You mentioned about the mental health.
Yeah.
Going to the gym, doing any kind of exercise, how it really helps to the mental health.
Scientifically speaking, right, I cannot explain the chemical process. However, on the bigger picture, I can explain the service. It definitely improves your mood, right? It helps with your self-confidence, right? It helps reducing stress, right?
If someone wants to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you?
It is usually, it depends, right? If they're local, if they're remote, right? My personal phone number, right? I can always provide, and most importantly, my Instagram fitness page, right?
Okay. What's your Instagram handle?
It is my first name, Justin, and then it is Jackson. It is Justin, JAXN, right? Underscore FIT. Justin Jackson Fit.
I will add the link in the description or the comment section so that people can
Perfect.
reach out to you, because I'm pretty sure many people, they are going to reach out to you because you have tremendous information about bodybuilding, or if someone is trying to lose the weight, overall fitness related information. So I would highly recommend as well people to reach out to you.
Yes, please. I provide very valuable content, right? This is another great benefit following this page, right? I post daily workouts.
Do you have any certification in the fitness industry?
Yes, a personal training certificate, right? That was through, it's called NASM, right? This is the association, the program through which I did my my certification, right?
And
Correct.
do they talk about the nutritions as well in that certificate?
Exactly, yes. It's a very comprehensive product, but to be very transparent with everyone about it, right? Most of those programs, they probably go a little bit too much into detail of human biology, right? So I would say most of the stuff you're actually learning through the certification is not so much applicable when you train a client, right? And the knowledge that you're providing. They're definitely valuable pieces of information that you learn from during the process of getting your certificate. But I would say 60% of that stuff is really something that you are probably never going to apply unless you work in a medical field.
These kind of questions, let's say whenever we are meeting with our, friends and family, these kind of questions, they always arise. Okay, we talk about like gym, doing exercise, eating the right food, but these are all, I think, common curious questions amongst all the people. And thank you so much for like going into that amount of detail and giving that information, and sharing, like, without hesitation, right? Many people, they don't share this kind of secrets, we call it, right?
Exactly.
Okay, tell me this thing, what is the secret to have six-pack abs?
To have six-pack abs, simply it is, to be very, very honest, right? The consistency of nutrition, right? Calorie deficit is must in order to burn body fat, right? There are other things that I like doing, right? That I consider secret, right? Such as drinking green tea, taking L-carnitine, right? Which is it's an amino acid, right? A high protein diet, right? Lemon, you squeeze a lemon into water and drink lemon water, helps you too. Cold showers, I believe firmly in cold showers, right? Very thermogenic. and higher step count, meaning walking roughly around 10,000 steps a day.
So, again, like let's say if you're going to the gym regularly, do you still need to cover 10,000 steps a day?
Exactly, yeah. But that counts, these steps count from the moment you wake up and take your first step to all the way when you go to sleep,
So you
right?
should always have that, fitness
It is recommended, right?
Mm.
It is not an integral part of losing body weight, obviously, right? But it can be a great tool to really get analytic data of yourself, how you have been moving, right? I was very surprised when I first started wearing that Apple Watch and seeing how many steps I actually walked, right? Because it was roughly around 4,000 or 5,000 only, right? Which really prompted me to be more active, right?
It
Yeah.
counts your steps without turning it on, right? If you, as
Exactly.
long as you have it on the hand, it counts.
Exactly,
Right?
yes.
Okay.
As long as the battery is not empty, right? Your Apple Watch is on, right? Or any step tracking watch, right? It will always track your steps, and pretty accurately, I would say so too, right? So the secret to having apps, right? It has always been, especially when I was younger, it has always been my goal to have apps, right?
Many people
And
have a dream.
yeah, and there are people that are skinny and have abs, and there are people who are muscular and have abs, right? And we always said when we were younger in Germany, especially, people who are skinny and have abs, it doesn't count, right? So another secret of having abs is truly working out your abdominal area, because many people, and I regret that I believed this, but I was told at a very young age, oh, you don't have your, or the first year I was into California, I was told, you don't have to work your abs, you just have to get lean and you will have abs. So I neglected ab training for a long, long time. 3 years ago, I started working abs seriously, right? Because what happens when you work your abdominal area, the abdominal muscle will grow, right? And the bigger the muscle, there is something called fat distribution. The better the fat distribution, the better the fat distributes in this area, right? So your abs become visible much faster at a higher range of body fat percentage, right? And this is what I like about ab training. Another great benefit, obviously, let alone the looks, right? The stabilization benefits you get from ab training, right? It's the center of your body, holding everything tight above and below, right? So just daily activities or you going about your life will become far less risky in terms of injuries, right? Or stiffness, discomfort, joint pain, right? When you have a strong base, right? Which is the center of your body, your abdominal. Yeah, correct.
Do you think, do you know? I should not ask you, do you think, okay? Because you have knowledge.
Yeah.
What is your take on like hereditary, right? Let's say someone is coming from, let's say their parents, or grandparents, they're very skinny. Some people come from the background where, like, they have tendency to gain weight very easily. They're like big people. How does it really matter?
It can play a role, right? But here's the way I like thinking about it, right? Let's say you're coming from hereditary bad genetics, right? Hereditary, you have bad genetics in terms of slow metabolism, right? Your parents tend to be obese, right? And so it had an effect on you, right? You can always change your DNA structure and your genetic impact, right? Meaning, if hypothetically speaking, right, this person who comes from a bad genetics, right, now starts to work out consistently, sticks to everything I just told you, right? 10,000 steps, drinks 1.5 gallons of water, works out 6 times a week, right? Eats clean for the next 2 years. You cannot tell me that this person is not going to get skinny, right? This person 1000% will reach their dream physique despite the genetic impact that this person was born with, sort of, right? You can always change your genetics, right? It's a real thing, right? And this is the sad part about many people is I've heard it many times, especially from other people. They're saying, "Well, I have to belly now because I'm getting old." Well, I believe in reverse aging, and many doctors do that too, right? If you eat high quality organic berries, grass-fed protein, pasture-raised eggs, you have a high protein diet, you're very active, you embark on a journey that involves a lot of resistance training, right? And you stay consistent and disciplined, you will change your body composition and your overall health, right? And this is bottom line. No matter how almost no matter how unhealthy you is, there are obviously conditions that will definitely restrict you, right? But it is rather rare, right? Yeah. So no matter what is your hereditary background, you will always have, and I hope I give a lot of people hope with that, right? Because many people lose hope because they just think, well, I was born this way. There's nothing I can do. Not true, right? Work hard and you will get out of this. Yeah.
What are the three main exercise you would recommend to everyone?
To everyone, let's say you only have 3 exercises that you could do for the rest of your life, right? I would definitely say those are actually body weight based exercises that you can also do weight, which is, we call them compound movements, right? Compound movements are movements that involve more than 1 or 2 muscle groups, right? They involve a lot of muscle groups. So it is number 1, pull-ups, right? Maybe weighted pull-ups, assisted pull-ups, or body weight pull-ups. Dips, right? Again, weighted, assisted, or body weight. And then squats. Again, weight, assisted, or body weight, right? You do pull-ups, dips, and squats. Those are the 3 main, I would say, movements that somebody should do that wants to build muscle. If those are the only 3 movements they could do.
What are the biggest challenges you have faced as a trainer, both personally and with your clients, and how you have overcome them?
I would say having my clients stay consistent with not only our workout regime but also the nutrition, right? Sometimes there has been moments where I blamed myself as the trainer, right? Where I thought to myself, maybe I should have been more of an intimate friend, right? Instead of just being the trainer, right? And really push them, right? Not just inside our training, but also outside our training, right? Sending them more reminder text messages, right? Providing them with things that could really help them stay consistent, right? Having them stay consistent is probably the biggest challenge. Yes. This is what I meant earlier when I said sometimes all you can do is all you can do, right? Where I would provide everything that I could think of in order to have them stay consistent and accountable to their own health journey, right? And although they would still start slacking eventually, right? Or I had a client, he was I'm not going to mention his name, right?
Yeah.
Was very, very consistent, great guy. He would come in 4 or 5 times a week to train with me, right? He loved the training. He was very ambitious. He trained really, really hard. He lost a good amount of weight, right? And gained muscle mass. But the only thing that held him back was the nutrition. He worked a lot, I understand, right? But I always say we have 86,400 seconds in a day, right? So it really comes down to what you're making, the day of, right? So what are you? There's always going to be a way to stick to your nutrition, no matter how tough and challenging it may seem, right? You just have to, push through, right? It's feasible. Yeah, correct. So yeah, once again, the consistency of clients is the biggest challenge.
So let's say someone starting a gym today. Okay, let's say from the 1st of October. October is coming. If he's consistent or she's consistent in coming to the gym, okay, having the good diet, let's say following your plan, after how many months they can see the changes in their body?
If they have never worked out before, right?
Yeah.
I would say the first wave of results will kick in after 3 months already, right? Which is very soon, and it's definitely a noticeable change, right? So this is usually I would say people start to be consistent, or people tend to be encouraged to continue when they start seeing results, right? So this is the sad part about many people, right? They
lose the
yeah, because they start working out and they say, I don't think it's working, right?
Okay.
Right? They say I don't think it's working because number one, they see themselves every day in the mirror, right? So it's hard to see small changes because you see yourself on a daily basis, right? Makes sense, right? And I actually had a friend in Germany. I remember that I was just about to move to California, and I introduced him to weightlifting, and he told me, man, I don't think this is for me. I don't think my body can build muscle, right? I didn't say much to it back then, right? But now when I think about it, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could have just sat down with you and talked for an hour and tell you, hey, believe in yourself, right? This is just what it is, right? And when it comes to fitness, I firmly believe in slowly is the fastest way to get to where you want to be, right? Don't try to hit your muscle group when it's sore, and don't try to, go crazy, right? Because you will end up hurting yourself. It will be counterproductive, right? and just firmly believe in the fundamentals.
So let's say again talking about the consistency, what happens after 6 months then? 3 months you said you will start seeing the changes.
Yes.
What happened after 6 to 8 months, let's say?
Yes, so it really just comes down in an ideal world. If you were staying consistent, you stuck to eating a lot of protein, right? You worked out hard and you started to increase the weight incrementally, right? Small changes in terms of increasing the weight that you're pushing. In 6 months, you can also already see, you could definitely notice a noticeable difference, right? You could say after a week or two, your body probably has already changed, but on a very minimalistic scale, microscopically small that you can't even notice, right? But it changed, right? But a noticeable change, 3 months, 6 months, and then I would say it would probably take a full year to, again, you see a full change. But again, it's also something that is very person dependent, right? Because we're a very complicated system, right? And everybody functions in a unique way, right? And responds to certain things in a unique way. So it really just depends on your body composition, metabolism, testosterone production, etc., etc.
Let's say someone has the health challenge, okay? Let's say they cannot go to the gym or they cannot lift heavy weights, okay? What other exercises would you recommend apart from going to the gym?
So they cannot lift any heavy weights or weights in general.
They cannot lift, let's say, any heavy weights.
Yeah, heavy weights. Well, you stick to light weights, number one, right? And body weight exercises, right?
Okay.
Body weight squats, right? You should be able to bend your knees, right? You can do push-ups, right? You can do planks, right? Plank holds. Also great exercise I recommend everyone doing, right?
Okay.
Works
Yeah.
your core a lot, right? But also your shoulders and arms, right? And so forth. So there are always alternatives, right, that you can utilize to work your way around being active. Because the number one thing nobody should do is being inactive when they have issues, right?
Right.
Such as joint issues, inflammation, right, osteoarthritis, right? In fact, you should especially work this area to strengthen also the surrounding connective tissue, tendon, ligament, and cartilage, right? That plays a vital role in joint health, right?
So for joint health, what kind of exercises you said?
Well, any resistance training type of exercise is great for joint health, right?
Okay. Can you give me some examples?
Of course, squats, right?
Squats,
Could
okay.
be great for your knee joint, right? But can also be harmful if you don't do it right and you use too much weight, right? And also great for your lower back, right? Also great for core stabilization. You could say shoulder press or lateral raises are great for your rotator cuff, shoulder joint, right? And connective tissue that aligns with it.
My mom is 60 plus, my dad is 70 plus. They never went to gym. I think they are not in a position because of the schedule. Probably they are not interested in going to the gym. What kind of exercises you would, and both had the knee surgery. What kind of exercises you would recommend to them at home?
Resistance bands, right? So you buy resistance bands, right? And all exercises you would do at a gym and with weights, you do with a resistance band, right? May it be, we call it a front raise or anterior front raise, right? Where you grab the resistance band and you raise it to the front, right? And that's something light, right? Depending on the resistance of the band, right? It usually comes in different weights of resistance, right? You obviously go light and you really just move it up and down, right? There are many resistance band exercises that we could talk about, but it would take a long time,
sure.
right?
I just wanted to know that.
Yes, definitely resistance band exercises, body weight exercises the best they can, right? And I would definitely say isometric holds, meaning time under tension, holding the resistance band in one position, bringing it slow down, right? May it be a shoulder press, right? May it be pulling the resistance band.
What about for the legs?
Squats,
Squats again.
squats,
Okay.
definitely squats, right? If they have any knee issues, right, there's also something called, we call these leg extensions, meaning you are simply just extending
Okay.
your foot, right, in a seated position, right? That one is also great exercise, but overall squats, yes. And walking can be great too, right? A stairmaster walking stairs can be awesome too. Yeah, exactly. And biking is something that is very, very low impact on your joint, by the way, right? So people that, for instance, suffer from knee pain, I do not recommend running because running is moderate impact on your knee joint, right? I would proceed with any other cardio exercise that is lower, that involves lower impact of your knee joint. Yeah.
What are the biggest mistakes people they do when they started working out?
I like the question. Reason why is because I'm a victim of it myself, right? The biggest mistake many people do, and I really hope people listening to this, right, they take it seriously, is they do not execute the exercises right, meaning they do not go full range of motion, right? This is the biggest mistake, and they do not take the negative movement seriously. Those are the two big negative movements. Mean, let's take a bicep curl that we all know, right, as an example, right? The negative movement is coming back down, right? They rush down, right? They curl up hard and then they rush down. They come back up, right? The eccentric movements, there create studies on it, is just as important as the concentric movement for muscle building and strengthening, right? So that is very, very important, right? Not only are you trying to be in control of your body, right? You're also building more muscle, and it's far more intense, right? The intensity itself should be a great indicator of it being very effective, right? Number two is full range of motion, right? Meaning most people do not go all the way down, right? And back all the way up. They go maybe 3/4 of the full range of motion down, right? And then they come back up, right? I like to use an analogy for that. I came up with that analogy myself. I kind of like using that, right? Let's say you go to San Francisco and you go to the Nordstrom Mall, right? It's like a 7 to 9 story high mall, huge, right? And in order for you to reach every single store, let's say your goal is you want to go to every single store, right? You have a bet with a friend, right? In order for you to go to every single store of that mall, you will have to take the elevator all the way up and all the way back down, right? In order to reach all the stores.
Right.
That's the only way, right? What I'm trying to say is with that analogy is in order for you to reach all the muscle fibers that are within that particular area, you have to go all the way up and all the way down, right? Does it make sense, right? And that is one of the most common mistakes, especially when you grab heavy weights, right? It is challenging to go full range of motion. It is easier not to do it, right? But you have to choose the hard path, the honest path, which is full range of motion, right? You're only doing half the work, and you're probably lacking in certain areas that you could build, right? And it could speed up your process by simply not going full range of motion. Especially chest press, people like stopping right here, right? When in fact your muscle truly stretches when you're coming right over here. The eccentric movement really focuses on the stretch of the muscle, right? This is why the eccentric movement is very important, right? Stretching the muscle is just as important as contracting the muscle, right? I just focus on my chest. Yeah, correct.
Why deadlift is so important? Can you tell me what deadlift is? Why they call it deadlift though?
You know what? I believe they call it a deadlift because it is such a cool
I've seen
exercise.
some videos on YouTube, and after doing that exercise, people they just faint out.
Yes, it is a physically exhausting exercise that can feel painful, right? Simply because it is one of those compound movements that you could go pretty heavy on, right? For instance, if you do a shoulder press, you can probably never go as heavy on your shoulder press than you could go on your deadlift, right? Deadlift uses pretty much your entire body, right? Almost every single muscle group, probably, right? Especially the posterior chain of your body. Posterior refers to everything towards the back, right? Meaning your back shoulder muscle, your back, your glutes, your hamstrings, right? When you're picking up the barbell, right? Or whatever it may be that you're deadlifting, right? You're literally using, especially your lower back, right? You're using your legs, you're using your shoulders, you're using your arms, your back, right? Everything. In order to lift that object up, right? Typically barbell.
I have seen some videos on YouTube and Instagram. So pregnant ladies, they are like lifting a weight, even in 7th, 8th, and 9th month.
Yeah.
How much it is recommended?
You know what? Since my girlfriend was pregnant not too long ago, it has always been a question on my mind, right? I researched it, and you know what? Squatting can truly help them alleviating the process of giving birth, right? So indeed, it is healthy, right? With a limit to it, right? Don't go heavy. Don't squeeze too hard. Don't hold your breath, and all of these things, right? Train consciously, right? I would say body weight movements without a weight is probably best. Depends on how soon you are going to give birth, right? So I would say if you're in your 9th month or 8th month already, I would stay away from the weights, and I would simply just do body weight squats, because body weight squats would definitely help you giving birth, right? If you're any earlier, I'm pretty sure, as far as I know, to my knowledge, it is definitely safe to still consider weight training, right? Just don't do heavy repetitions, like anything you can lift for only 6 reps, right? Do something that you can lift for 15 to 20 reps, which is light, right? And it works muscular endurance and still builds muscle, right?
Yep, perfect. That is the end of our podcast, and thank you so much, Justin, for
Awesome,
sharing
yeah.
this tremendous information. Of course, is entire world is going to see this, and I hope they get motivated at least, and they get they take the good decision of going to the gym or doing the exercise at least at home to begin with.
Yes.
So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course, thank you so much. I hope everybody here in the audience gets enlightened and motivated, right? With that information, right? Everything up to this point is obviously truthful, right? And it's variable knowledge that not everybody shares on social media. I know social media can be very confusing, right? With millions of different types of contents within the same aspect of knowledge, right? And yeah, I'm honored to be here, right?
Thank you.
Can't wait for the next podcast.
Yep, absolutely. We will have the next podcast on,
Yes,
real estate.
regarding the real estate. Yes, yes. Thank you, Graf.
Yep.
Right?
Thank you so much.